Hey guys, welcome to beautiful British Columbia. If you ever get a chance to come ride here, do it. Now Can-Am has brought me here to sample its 2019 models, and this video we're going to take a look at this revamped 2019 Outlander. Let's talk about the changes that arrived for the entire Outlander lineup, regardless of the model. And the biggest one is totally redesigned suspension. Now, Can-Am has added a front sway bar to this unit, which is pretty interesting. And they've just totally redone the suspension calibration here. Now, another big change is the Outlander is now 48 inches wide, which is 2 inches wider than it used to be at 46, so it's a little more stable now. That also allowed for better wheel travel. We have 9.9 inches in the front and 9.2 inches in the rear. Now when it comes to power, the top dog 1000R model gets 91 horsepower, which is pretty crazy when you ride it. And Can-Am does say you have to run 91 octane fuel to get that power, but they've also added 2 additional NOx sensors to that engine. So if you do want to run a lesser octane, you can, and the engine will still protect itself and be safe. But trust me, if you can get 91 octane, get it. Because you get 91 octane, 91 horsepower, and it's a blast. Now the towing capacity on these models is up to 1,650 pounds, which is quite a bit, and there's a 2-inch hitch receiver, which is always appreciated. Now the other major change, well, it only came to the 1000R model, and that's the addition of Can-Am's throttle by wire setup. And thanks to that, on the 1000R, they now have drive modes, which is new for 2019. So you have a work mode, a standard mode, and a sport mode. But again, that's just on the 1000R. These lesser machines, this is an 850 I'm sitting on right here. This thing still has a direct connection between the throttle and the engine using a cable. So those are all the big changes. Now you're asking, well, how does it ride? Well, let me tell you, the front sway bar, it makes a big difference. This machine is so flat through the corners, it's almost silly. Now Can-Am did bring out a 2018 Outlander, so we could compare them. And the 18, while it's still fast and it's still fairly stable, it likes to lift the wheels, especially we were on this kind of grass race course that they had set out for us. And coming through the corners, the 18 likes to lift. You feel like you really use your body to drive that machine. The 2019 with the front sway bar, it just stays incredibly flat, incredibly planted through the corners. And you actually don't feel like you have to use your body weight as much because the machine just does it for you. It keeps all 4 wheels on the ground, solidly planted on the ground, and you just want to take corners faster and faster and faster because of it. And that extra 2 inches of width is helping as well, of course. So the machine just feels so much more stable and planted now. And then you combine that with the 91 horsepower, and it's just hilarious. It's so fast in a straight line. This thing is crazy. Now let's talk the throttle by wire system. So first of all, what it allows Can-Am to do is make the thumb weighting really light. So again, here on the 850, it's still a cable. So the thumb weighting has to be a little heavier to provide a little more friction so that you're not kind of stabbing at the throttle. With the throttle by wire, the thumb weighting is incredibly light, which at first I didn't really like. I got on there and I thought, wow, this is really weird. But then when you start to feel how it's calibrated, it actually feels really natural. And you're bouncing down the trail and you're hitting ruts and stuff and your thumb's kind of jerking it, and you don't feel that coming through to the engine at all. Can-Am just totally dials it out. So it basically allows the machine to be smooth without you making it smooth. And then luckily for all you saying, well, I don't want that crap, there is sport mode. And when you put it in sport mode, it essentially feels like a direct connection. So you can get really jerky going down the trail. But even in sport, you can tell that the machine is sort of dialing out some of the roughness that your thumb might be putting in. And the light thumb weighting is just nice. After a long day's ride, you don't have any soreness right here in your thumb. So standard and sport are fairly self-explanatory. Now the work mode, it really dials out the throttle response. So I mean, you really got to lay into it to get the power. Now what work mode is good for is tight maneuvering. If you're in a small spot or if you're backing a trailer into a shop or something, work mode is excellent because you're never going to get any big jerks or any big jumps that you're not expecting. And besides those modes, which again are only on the 1000R, the entire lineup gets adjustable power steering. So you can set it at a minimum level, mid-level, and then a maximum level. So it really allows you to have whatever kind of steering feel you want. You put it on minimum, the handlebars get really heavy. You really got to work them. It doesn't feel like the power steering does much. If you leave it on mid-level, it's a little bit better. I actually had it on max all day yesterday because we were doing some pretty gnarly rock climbing and stuff. And when you are in those big rocks and you're hitting stuff you might not expect, it just takes all of the fatigue out of your arms and your hands. And you know, if you want a little more fun, it can be nice to kind of let the power steering let you have, you know, more control and let you feel like you're doing more. But for a long day of trail riding, you can't beat the maximum setting. So it's just awesome that Can-Am allows you to adjust the power steering level. So like I mentioned, the front sway bar here keeps this thing incredibly flat through the corners, and it just makes it a handling monster. But I will say, I do think the Outlander feels a little more tailored towards that sport rider and a little less towards comfort. Now, because they added the front sway bar, they were able to loosen the rear sway bar and make it smaller. So that was supposed to sort of give you back some of that comfort. But I would say the machine still tends to kind of lean more towards stiffness and handling than it does towards comfort. But if you're the kind of guy who likes to push your ATV hard, this thing absolutely delivers over and over. And because it's so good and so flat, it's confidence inspiring. You just want to take corners faster every time. And then honestly, what might be the most impressive thing about the Outlander, Can-Am actually made it cheaper for 2019. So there's more physical material here because it's wider, and there's the new sway bar and the new suspension. But Can-Am actually made it somewhere between $400 and $700 cheaper, depending on which model you get. And I'll throw a graphic up to show you all the different prices throughout the entire range. Now when it comes to styling, that's been updated too. So first of all, we get that honeycomb grille, which was introduced on the Maverick X3, kind of brings the family resemblance along. And then on the bumpers here on this Outlander, they've added steel corners rather than the old plastic corners. So now it allows the entire bumper to be painted. And as it sits here in this black with the orange accents and orange bumpers, I think it looks pretty badass. So I mentioned the 91 horsepower, but power is up across the board, and Can-Am is very proud of the fact that they have the most power in every single big bore segment. So I'll throw a graphic up for that as well and show you all the different power numbers. So after 2 days riding this Can-Am, here's my conclusion. If you want absolute comfort and plushness in an ATV, this might not be the model for you. But if you want anything else, good utility, incredible handling, really good power, and a nice looking package, this Can-Am Outlander will deliver all day long. So that's it for this episode, guys. Make sure you subscribe to TFL Off-Road and come back here for the latest news, views, and real world reviews. See ya.